Well, you used to.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Okay.
The minutes. Is there any changes or deletions that need to be made to the minutes? Do we get a motion to accept? All in favor? Carried. Any business arising from the minutes? It's not already on the agenda. Okay. Motion track. Scott?
There's some stuff done on this now, which was nice. I have provided the option agreement to NFR for purchase, so I sent it to Kevin. He said he's going to take it to the board for their properties. So Mary Lewington helped the idea of the option agreement that the village could utilize, so didn't have to.
So they can turn that down and go with someone else if they want.
They theoretically could refuse, yeah.
So
So
there is someone else, like I say, that's
yeah, they
looking to build there.
They haven't signed anything yet, so I'll be following up with Kevin at the end of the week to see where they're at with it. Shane was dealing with the vendor for the signage for the library. He's finally got another person who can do the lettering, so we should have a costing here pretty quick. I told Shane just to go ahead and order it because we figure it's going to come in around under 5,000 for sure. So if it's under 5, we're just going to go ahead and order it. And then I have spoke with the doctor group in relation to the clinic, and they are going to develop some fully costed options for us. And as soon as they do, we'll have a committee of the whole meeting scheduled for prior to that particular session.
The doctor group.
Yeah, we had a doctor group from Tabor present at the last council meeting to Tori's clinic. Yeah, I did have a conversation with Davis Yanni about some of the stuff in relation to this. And he indicated to me that the Raymond Clinic is overstocked with doctors. They actually are tripping on one another. He's working on them to try and get them in with Jim. But he said he would be happy to help us in any way, shape, or form as a sort of advisor, whatever, in relation to some of this stuff, because he has his own ideas. And I did learn there's more complexity to ER rotations than just getting a doctor. They actually have to get permission from the clinics that are signed contracts with the HS to do ER rotations. So if we got a doctor from a Tabor clinic, theoretically, they couldn't actually do ER rotations in Raymond if the Raymond clinic said no. So there's some interesting dynamics there that I wasn't aware of that were at play. So yeah, Davis provided me for a bit of information.
I thought Davis was associated with the.
No, he's associated with a different clinic. Their clinic's not expanding, but he did say both those clinics are fighting for doctors. They're all trying to hire more physicians right now because they're understaffed for the physicians they need just in Tabor. So not just Davis's clinic, but the other clinic is also hiring for a physician because they need another physician in Tabor. So
I assumed it was the same. Because Tories are from Tabor area.
Yeah.
And I know Davis was out there.
Yeah.
They said they purchased another clinic in Lethbridge and they were looking to expand, just sort of create a network with full service, physiotherapy, all kinds of stuff.
That'd be super. That would be super.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. So maybe this gentleman that's looking to build over here might have him come and talk to you.
okay.
Because it might be better for him to work with us than he'll do with us.
That's
That's
part of the
part of the
discussion we
Johnson.
had last time.
That's it.
Yes.
If we have the option, we can take that option, turn it over or purchase it and sell it to somebody and then have some control over it.
Yeah.
Versus Nelson's, which sometimes they're motivated and sometimes they're not.
That's true. That's true. No, sounds good. Okay. We don't need a motion for that, do we? Okay. So accounts payable, the checklist. Okay.
Did it have one? I can't remember what it was.
Well, just talk to me about United Utilities.
That was the work done at the lagoons. So it means they're done now, all the tines are done and all the belts are replaced.
So everything's finished. It's
Short of the generator install, which likely won't happen until December, everything's done.
Is that Sago as well?
So, okay, no, those are for the pool.
Oh,
Who's gonna be opening up that one?
Should be, we've got the enamel paint, first coat went in today, so they should be doing second coat, I believe, tomorrow or Friday. We're hoping to have water in it by the end of next week. I will say there was a lot of stuff to fill in the pool, crack wise.
Well, yeah, you remove all that paint and you seal the,
Wow, and all the work that we did to replace the sections that were rotten, I think some of the work that happened in there, just, there's more cracking, so. We should hopefully have a watertight basin here,
good.
fingers crossed.
last question from the Gen X. I'm assuming that's the third
That's,
meeting and
that's the earth moving, all the excavation work, installation of the services, yeah.
does that include the patchwork for the?
No.
Or that's,
Patchwork for the pavement's gonna be robbed off, so that'll be a separate thing. Our guys are we're doing all the curbs, and then we're gonna do all the basing, and then Rob's gonna come in and do the asphalt.
Any other questions? I get a motion.
yeah, I think except 7,
Hmm?
7:13.
Yes. Okay, all in favor?
I'll move,
Accepting 1773.
yeah,
Yeah.
I will move check 7.
All in favor of 713? All abstained? Is Councillor Davis. Okay, bank reconciliation. That just got blown off the head this week. That's fun.
Well, I have a question.
Mhm.
You said it's a money saving suggestion.
Hmm.
Contain both two sides. We have a printer with us.
The system actually, because it's part of the Munaware system, it's one per page. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll flip it out.
It, good suggestion, but the system doesn't like your suggestion,
Can you PDF it?
possibly.
Okay. So this is as of the end of April,
Yes.
so it's definitely not up to date.
No.
So we did have money in the bank, yes.
No, it's just
Okay,
reconciliation.
all in favor? Carried. Okay, budget report.
There are a couple items in there that I've got to have moved around. I was looking at it today, but they're mostly capital purchases that got lumped into an operating GL. And then we should have the LGFF operating reporting portal open in 2 weeks. So then Clark can get our reporting in for LGFF operating, and then they'll release this year's $288,000 to us. So we should see that money sometime in July-ish.
That's important.
Yeah.
Any questions about the budget?
Budget report.
Councillor Foss moves the budget report. All in favor? Carried. Safety program audit review.
So, safety coordinator Mike Heidinger and myself met with Blair Takahashi. He's Alberta Occupational Health and Safety Officer. And we did a review of everything we built out for a safety program. I will say Blair was impressed. He did not actually think we would have a safety coordinator, let alone one that's getting educated. And he was surprised by the number of policies and initiatives that we have right down to doing our orientation with summer staff. He's actually told me there's a couple communities in the area that he's also auditing that when he said, what's your safety program? I said, what's that? We don't have one. So we are ahead of some and making progress. And I think Blair, he lives and breathes safety, so he's going to help us get to the goalposts. Mike and I have taken a very helpful approach with him, so he's more than willing to share resources and things and information, as you can see from his report. But everything that he does as he's going through the review process comes in the form of an order, because that's what they're required to do. So we get the order, we put the check marks in the boxes, and then he's going to come in and reevaluate other aspects of the safety program. So the order right now, there's a policy on the books we needed to do a revision on. I think he got that one wrong, but we're going to make him happy with it. And then Mike's doing up some emergency response plans for all of the buildings. He's tackling some hazard assessment forms for the buildings, because we do building inspections. And our building inspection forms are not allowed to be the same as the building hazard assessment forms. We tried to use it all in one, we're not allowed. So we're gonna,
Dear you.
yeah, so we've got to bust out a separate form. It's all good. I mean, we're getting into compliance. So Mikey's been picking away at it pretty decently. So we've already got one thing off the list. He's working on the emergency response plans right now. And then we got the policy on the list. And then Blair's going to come back, do a review of all of our facilities with Mike, go on, drive around with him, interview a couple of staff, and then he's going to go into more of the stuff related to work-specific hazard assessments. So you're digging a trench, what's your hazard assessment look like? You're doing this type of work, what's your hazard assessment look like? So Mike's starting to tackle some of those forms and pick some of that stuff off as well. So
Excellent.
yeah, we've been building things into it from its infancy. So he's willing to work with us, which is nice. And he recognizes that we have a limited crew and summer's busy. So it's a 30-day thing. So if we can't reasonably get it done, he can grant us an extension. So it's not anything that's going to be hopefully debilitating for the operations staff as we're going through this and developing. He was impressed that we have a prime contractor policy. And when he took a look at it, he thought we did a good job with it. So kudos to Mike on that one. He put together a really good policy on that.
It's good to see that we're a little further ahead than they expected.
Yes, I was quite happy about that. Our work is paying off.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just think it's great that we're building those relationships before it becomes necessary. That goes a long way, and being proactive. So thanks for that.
Okay, can we get a motion to accept that as information? Councilor Bickman, all in favor? Carried. We can't see you, Trevor, so if you disagree, just yell at us.
Yeah, will do.
Okay, respectful workplace policy.
So this was the policy that he wanted a revision. Now, under the Alberta Occupational Health and Safety Code and Act, if there's a safety incident, so we have a incident that's been investigated, the employer is required to have the investigation conducted and report it back to a health and safety committee, standing body, and if you, in the absence of any of those, all the employees. So harassment and violence in the workplace are now part of the Occupational Health and Safety Code. So he believed we had a requirement to do the reporting and sent me the section and everything. When I read the section in the code actually says in these circumstances, it only applies to parts A through C, and the reporting component is done. You don't have to do it, because it would be an expectation of privacy. So Aletta punches Bev in the nose or harasses somebody, it should be subject to some form of privacy. It's not something you're going to disclose to all the staff. It's a little different than I stuck my hand in a grinding wheel and cut my finger off. Okay, well, what are we doing to prevent that in the future? So the policy's been amended to quote the Occupational Health and Safety Code and section to meet our legislative requirement by his order. But it really changes absolutely nothing on how we manage or report on these things, because the code actually nullifies our requirement to just disclose everybody's incident to the staff. So that's kind of the change to the policy. But we pick it off, then I can just let them know it's done and the order is complied with.
No, that's good. Any questions?
You got it.
Motion by Councilor Foss to approve and repeal All in favor? Carried. Okay, Fifth Avenue lot update.
Okay, so, good news, finally got the appraisal, or the assessed value of the properties. They came in lower than what I'd anticipated, the numbers sort of stayed the same. So I told everybody prior to this that they would likely be coming in that 60 to 65 range, so I just sort of set an arbitrary price of 65,000, which is $10,000 above asking. And then the smaller lot was, I believe, it went out at 45, yeah. So I made it 60, so it's 15,000 above asking. But really, in my mind, that's going to be a pretty lot anyway, because you're almost getting a corner lot aspect with a path there leading down to whatever the green space envisioning is. So to give council kind of an idea of where we're sitting costing wise right now, we're sitting at the $250,000 mark, or 251,000 ballparkish. The Cody recommended with Fortis not doing overhead. Now, or not doing underground, sorry, because underground added anywhere from $35,000 to $45,000 worth of cost, because they have to do a different kind of transformer and then feed it back into the system. He said you basically absorb more cost to make it cheaper for the person buying the lot. The person buying the lot pays a little bit more now because they got to take the spooled cable and get it to their house. The underground, they do a little bit more, it makes it cheaper on the homeowner, but we pay more. That being said, I have in here about a rebate. The rebate doesn't apply to overhead, it applies to underground, and it works out to be about $3,000 a lot. So there's a ballpark $15,000 that we would get back. So when you bust those numbers out, it would cost us an extra $15,000 to $30,000 to do underground. So and their trenching costs are insane. I don't know what they're paying for trenching, but their trenching costs are just exorbitantly high. So he recommended we do poles, and we actually Shane and I met with the served marker for the poles, and he's going to get them so that they're situated where there's no guide cables whatsoever. So it'll just be a pole kind of on the edge of the property, same as on most of our streets. So each lot will have 4 poles total for the 5 lots, and 2 lots will be fed off lead pole.
Can they do 2 lots with 1 pole?
No, because then they have to do guide wires, and those guide wires come down. He said if the distances are good, that they can drop 1 pole, 4 poles total, and then they don't have to worry about any guide wires. He said the guide wires become a complexity because then you're putting them encroaching into people's driveways and things of that nature. And where we've got everything situated with the path and things, they can come straight across from the soccer field. So it's set up that way. And ATCO has still yet to get back to me with any kind of costing or materials. I've put them in touch with Darren. I've given them the information from the village, and it's been crickets from them.
So what do they need to do?
They have to run the gas line. So the gas line stubs out at the corner of the faucets, and they've got to run the gas line down the frontage so that they got to trench it to put it down in front of the lots so that they can service the lots off the gas line.
Well, isn't there already a gas line down that street?
Not on the side that they want it on. They don't want to go tie in on the opposite side of the street.
It'd be cheaper to come down the side of the curve and cross.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to direction drill. Or take a little train.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all in all, if we sell all the lots for cost price, we're actually coming out relatively decently. So we should make about $320,000 of revenue if they all go for asking price. If they go for the appraised value price, it's $265. So after ATCO comes in, we can reasonably expect that we would lose a hair if they went for appraised price. But if we get asking, we'll wind up profiting on the lots. So.
Well, I would think you'd get asking price.
I think so.
Would there be a possibility of offering the homeowners or whoever buys them to be like, okay, there's 5 of you, underground would cost this much, split up the cost of it?
We would have to get it done as a local improvement tax. We could put infrastructure on the vacant lots as a local improvement tax. Raymond did that. I'm opposed to that because to me, that I don't know any homeowner in Raymond who bought in that golf course that wasn't irate when they got their tax bill. So it never bodes well for the municipality. I mean, if you guys want underground, we haven't commit to it yet. I've signed the agreement. I can just phone Cody and say, hey, we're not doing that. We're going to go underground. And they'll just change the agreement, change the quote, and that'll be it.
I'm just wondering if an alternative, because you don't want to, I mean, I get the visual of power lines running in front. In certain communities, they run the power lines, and we own that property behind it.
Yeah.
You run the power lines and put the power poles in the back. And then you're running your service across the back of the property instead of.
Probably wouldn't work in this case because power's coming from north, west.
As well, I mean, there is alternatives to the underground if, if we really want that visual.
There might be some savings on trenching if you did them, because you can do the gas. So they could trench that at the same time.
You said the transformers,
The transformer's a big cost and the trenching's a big cost. Yeah, the cable and such isn't a huge component to the cost, but when I talked to Cody, he said it's a lot more expensive. Now there's the developer incentive where we would get the $3,000 per lot back when it's sold, it came online, when it's connected to Fortis. We get that as a rebate, but I mean, if council wants it, we can throw the motion on there and I can get a hold of Cody tomorrow morning and say, hey, scrap that. We want to go underground.
It would be nice to do it underground, just because of the look. You know, we've always, the place that did underground was Rob's subdivision. And it does look a lot nicer not to have those poles there. And,
Because we can't increase the price of each lot by $7,000. Cover the cost of them.
We can do whatever you guys want. If you want, I could list them for 72. I did tell 7 people they're 65, however. So, I mean, you could always calculate the offer for $7,000.
I think it's 65 is a fair price. I mean, even if because if we pay the extra, we're still making money on it.
Yeah, if we actually get full value on the lots and get the $15,000 back, that would be ballpark somewhere between 15 and 30. So if we go on the high side of 30, you're going to be here's what I have for this in here at 23. So you would be, or 24. So you would be 260, and then your ACO costing.
But the other aspect that's not covered in this is our, connections, our water and sewer connection fees.
Oh,
that we
yes.
charge.
Yeah, that we would charge to get back.
So some of our lot servicing is gonna be captured back. in
True.
it. So that's another.
I guess the other factor too is the internet, right? Because TELUS.
TELUS fiber optic goes on the poles right now.
Oh, that's true.
That would be the,
Yeah.
so even while I would prefer to get it underground, just the internet probably forces us to go above ground.
Yeah, I mean, I could see if TELUS wanted to do it, but I suspect if they're dropping fiber, they're going to do poles because it's cheaper for them.
For 5 customers.
But it's not like we don't see power poles
Everywhere
up and
else.
down our streets on every block except that one. That we do underground.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's gonna make the lot unsalable.
No.
Aesthetically, of course, no poles is better. But practically, pragmatically, we're gonna have 4 poles and 2 Czechoslovakians.
Government forces us to do
Until
it. Until then. We'll just go cheap and pocket the money.
Any other questions?
Do you want a motion to set price?
If you'd like, the last time in council, you guys indicated it was okay to go about 10 grand above, so that's the ballpark I went with. If you want to make a motion to set the price, we can do that as well.
We need to?
I think what we've got is.
Yeah, no, I don't know that we need to. I'm happy that it's higher than what the value is. I think that the appraisal covers off the fact that we're not selling it below market value, which is a municipal government issue.
Yeah.
It doesn't say you can't sell it for more.
Yeah.
It does say you can't sell it for less.
Yes.
So if you're not doing that, we're good.
I think 65 is a steal still,
Oh, it is.
because, I mean, Stonegate right now is wild, but even their smaller lots are in the 80 range. Easy.
Yeah. And if they sit, we have the ability to adjust.
Yes.
That's
But
right.
I don't think we'll have an issue.
We'll have houses there before.
Yeah, that's my goal.
Okay, we need a motion.
Accept the report.
Councilor Foss, all in favor? Carried. 7 habits.
So
To
this,
speak to that,
100%, I was just going to say this was brought forward by Councillor McMahon.
I think it's a good thing to do. I've done it for years in the past, and I did it when I was in MLA with part of the budget that we had available for that. We did it last year, and I don't think it's put us in the red. I think it gives our youth a good foundation for going forward. When I taught at the university and met up with students later on, I've given them copies and had that be a required book. And received lots of people saying back to me how much they appreciated being exposed to those subjects. It was helpful with their career. And one of them said, if you go to the bedside and review it on a regular basis. So I think it's a good thing to do. This is $25 for, 25 students, $625 or whatever that works out to. I don't think it's gonna break the budget. I think we should establish that as something that we're gonna do every year for our graduating class. And I make a motion that we do it.
Any other questions or any other comments? All in favor?
I didn't see, oh,
Oh, huh?
I didn't see it. Was it just, was it,
There's three.
pardon?
There's three.
Opposed?
And Trevor did too.
Oh, Trevor opposed?
He did last time.
No.
Cheers.
Jerry. Jerry.
My legacy.
CSS building ductwork.
So I'm working on an updated 2025 capital plan. It's the approved capital budget for 2025 is not going to see the water project. MP's timing alignment is not going to work for the village's financial picture. And I do not want to get in a position where we're using the line of credit to debt load finance into the following year like we did last year. So that, because of how long it's taken to get to the RFP process, we're going to have them bidding on it to start working in the spring of next year, which will align better with our funding that we also receive from the province for our operating and LGFF operating and capital, because those timeframes will then be back in place. So we won't see our operating account getting beat up the way that it has so far this year. That being said, we did get a report from, we did duct cleaning over at the SCSS building, and there is a lot of rotten material in there. So Shane asked ABC Plumbing to take a look and see what could be done in relation to changing the system, because to get new ductwork in the floor, we'd be busting up all the concrete, which just isn't practical. So they've come up with a plan to bulkhead everything and do it as aesthetic as they can with 2 new furnaces, and the costing is there. I know this isn't a project that was originally on the books, but if I've managed to get the wiggle room within the capital plan, I'm looking for council to sign off on this so we can show that building some love and get some new furnaces and get ducting squared away there, because it is very deteriorated.
So it needs to be done.
If it doesn't make this year, it's going into next year's capital budget for sure. It's an absolute necessity.
Yeah, I mean, part of the question in my mind is that portion that we're looking at developing into
Yes.
something
Yes.
that we don't know what that is yet. If we have a plan of what that looks like, if that's individual offices, it sure would be great if there was some individual control over keeping those rooms. So mini splits or, something like that where you can break these down into smaller areas. Obviously, FCSS and the other portion of it, if that's all run off of one system. So to me, that's the question is, what's the end goal? If we do something now, are we gonna have to modify it again to fit the use that we maybe have in the future?
Yes.
Right, so I'm not opposed to this. I would like to see, typically I don't like if we have one contractor provide us a service and then they provide us a quote and we don't look anywhere else. I think it's a good business practice to ensure that we have more than one quote and then we can make a decision based on that. I'm not saying this is a bad quote.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but
That's why you have 3 quotes.
right, and so that's one aspect to it, but the concept of fixing and repairing and updating that building makes sense. Is it essential that it needs to be done now? I mean, maybe. I don't know how long it's been in that state, obviously for a while, but
I will say Stacy's alleging she has health issues because of the deterioration in the furnace. So
yeah, for sure.
One of the obvious considerations is the value of the building in terms of its return to us. We rent it out for, what is it, $700 or $800 a month?
6. Was it 6?
I-
5? Sorry, 5, but 500. Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of the expense to maintain it and keep it up, to get a $6,000 a year return, that's questionable.
Do they pay utilities or do we pay?
We pay utilities.
So, I mean, that structure is literally costing us money.
Yes and no, because the solar on there, we usually don't pay a lot in utilities. Now, I'd have to look at the natural gas, but I don't believe it's exorbitant to heat it. If we're making a profit, we're skimming a small profit.
Well, we believe in it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, that's harsh, but that's reality.
At the same time, we don't make money on any of our other buildings, and the services we get from FCSS and Sterling are significantly greater because they have greater space than is available in other places. So, it's a trade-off that we've consciously made that choice in the past.
I think that's a valid point. Of course, the value of FCSS to our village is, you may be able to put a dollar value on it, but it's certainly much higher than what we're getting in rent, and I agree with that. But we have other buildings in the village that could, in other spaces that could be potentially used. I don't know how much basement space we have here in this building that isn't currently used. We've got other buildings that could potentially be used in place of this building for FCSS. And I think that needs to be looked at.
I don't think we've got other buildings that could facilitate SCSS. I don't, which ones do you think?
Well, I don't know, but I think that there are spaces that are currently being used by the village itself that could perhaps be the whatever their housing or whatever currently was might be able to be done somewhere else. I'm just saying, it's something to think about. I'm not saying that we take FCSS up, that's the last thing I want to do. But I'm just wondering if there's in fact a better facility that we have that we can use.
Because I know FCSS got kicked around quite a bit there for a while. And to the pool and to the big here and a lot of different places. And of course, we put them in there and it's been way better than any of the other places that they've been.
Well, you know that better than I do because you work with them. And so this isn't anything personal. I'm just looking at it from a very practical point of view. If we have to have that, that's the best place for them. And of course, we're going to spend the money to keep it hospitable and occupiable. But I'm just thinking that we should keep an open mind and look at other places and what the current use is in those other places. Could those things that are being done there be done somewhere else?
I do agree with Matt. I think we need another quote. Like it's probably under what I thought was a government jet.
No, it's way under 200,000 still not. So it's way under, and our complexity is we've been using Schaefer Brothers, and they've sort of, for lack of a better term, crapped the bed on a lot of things, so we're not touching them with a 10-foot pole at this point.
What about where ATV is right now? That space, would that space house, that be functional for FCSS?
Not without a major renovation, no.
It's not even close to enough for the
But if you're saying that you want to not have FCSS in there, or would you want to tear the building then? Not spend 40 grand on a furnace?
Don't know.
Yeah.
Some private developer might find a use for it. I've heard some suggestions, but I don't know how practical it is or how serious they work. Again, I think we need to do everything we can to protect, to keep FCSS here. I'm just asking and we're having a discussion. If everybody's mind's already made up, then I'll be quiet.
No, I think it's part of a bigger conversation. That's what that's what you're getting at. There's a bigger conversation here, that building. We've heard about maintenance costs and updates and renovations and all that. And we also were talking about reconfiguring, when we went over our little field trip, reconfiguring that to be used in a different layout or a different way than what it currently is. So obviously we've identified this needs to be addressed. Is that the momentous to spur us to actually think about it in a bigger way, to say that building needs a bunch of work? It's not just the furnace that needs work. There's a bunch of things that need work. So do we fix the furnaces and put a Band-Aid on an old building? Or do we say, hey, now is a good time. We've got a space that's unusable, kind of in its orientation. Let's reconfigure this. Let's do some real work and end up with a space for FCSS and a usable functional space for something else.
And that probably makes more sense.
And I couldn't have said it better. I'm glad you're part of this council because that's the vision, that's the perspective that I was unable to articulate.
Any other?
Now, that's right. Now,
Are you making a motion to explore reconfiguring that building?
well, so I think this sort of goes back to the whole discussion of that building, the bowling alley, what group were you part of?
TED committee.
The TED committee, looking at that building. So as much as it needs to be done, which I have no doubt that it needs to be done, it's very obvious that there needs to be work done. The question is, do we do it now? Or do we now take the time, really look at it, really make a decision? Because if it comes back a year from now and we've done nothing, let's put some furnaces in, right? Like that's kind of the way that I'm looking at it. Because I think from the last time we talked about this building was, yeah, it's great to think about it, but we think about things for 8 years and still do nothing, right? So hopefully this puts a little fly in the ointment so that we now come back, have a serious discussion about this building and say, what's the cost? What could we turn it into? Let's do some work, let's do some legwork and see in that footprint, what can we do with it? And if the best use of our resources is exactly what we're doing, and put furnaces in there, I'm happy to vote in favor.
Do you want me to bring this back in the next council agenda for discussion, or?
So I don't know what the TED committee is, have they done anything?
We haven't done anything. It's hard to keep people engaged when they can't see progress based on little suggestions or stuff like that. And that's probably my fault. I'll take full blame for that. We haven't come up with anything.
Well, I think it just, something that's happened in the community where someone has been talking about opening a grocery store. Well, that building would probably be a perfect size for a grocery store, if you wanted to use it for something like that. And so there are other things that it can be used for. But like you say, we need to look at it and see.
Yeah, I personally, I would think engaging with Stacy or FCSS.
Mhm.
Obviously, they're gonna have a wish list, right? But if we mention to them, hey, we're looking at this building, we know it currently functions in its state, but if we were to change it, provide some feedback. What would you like to see? Knowing full well that you're not getting the whole building.
Yeah.
Right? So we
So
want to make this work in a way that could house potentially 2 services to the community in a better way, or more.
kind of had that conversation, and she said she doesn't want to see change. So that was her perspectives. I took Sandra over there prior to, she wanted to see the space in relation to TED and some other things. So I took Sandra over to take a look, and I had a conversation with Stacy about it. So we're just trying to envision how this building orientation and things could work. And she said, I don't want it to change. She's happy where she's at. So ultimately, whatever you guys decide, she'll have to figure out. But if it's a certain amount of space she needs for her programming, then it'd be a matter of reconfiguring what that space looks like potentially.
Yeah, I just think the front half of that building is inefficient.
Mhm.
And you walk down a big long hallway, there's a couple of offices.
Yeah.
Nothing really on that side. And then you get to FCSS.
Yeah.
And so the back half of it was FCSS, the front half of it was something else.
Yeah.
Or just,
Along
or
with
just
the
split it right down the middle and half of it's business.
I'm going to continue with my heresies. We've got a really big hallway here that we use occasionally. It's nice to have a community hall. But in reality, how many of the meetings and things, events that go on here, we couldn't we do with the school, with the proper working relationship with the school or with the church? Again, just thinking outside the box. But I don't think the school would allow it, and I know the church wouldn't allow it.
Nope.
Wouldn't allow public meetings to go on in the church.
And the school would be hard, no.
Yeah. But I think it's something to look at.
Well, if you guys wanted to add it to a specific agenda, we could capture a motion that brings it back, either pre-election, post-election. Or if the people sitting at this table would like to deal with it, we can deal with it prior to October. If you'd rather defer, we can defer.
Well, I think it might be a good idea to defer it. And see what the new council, rather than us tying the hands of the new council.
Someone should make a motion then.
Hmm?
Someone should make a motion.
Yeah, I mean, we've already directed the TED committee to explore the building.
Well, I'll try and
Yeah.
get together again and see if we can come up with something.
But I think if we revisit it again in fall.
So,
Then it's budget time.
Okay.
If it means we're looking at some dollars, that's probably the perfect time.
I'll make that motion.
Until then, tell Stacy not to breathe.
I'm not telling Stacy anything. She'll be in my office every day.
Just tell her not to use. I know Jen would love to move the library again. Jeez, it's gonna be. Yeah, that's.
Stranger things have happened.
Unfortunately, that would be great for old people.
Okay, the motion is on the floor. Any other discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay,
Really kind of covered off the main highlights of this. JB Meeks come by, we got a good deal on trees. I met with Chief Berkey, they did deploy again, but they've got the SPU, they're close to completion. They've got a requesting for donation of sprinkler heads from Southern Irrigation, and if they get them, then they'll be just 2 ponds away. So I told Mark to come up with a costing list, because in my mind, if we can just buy the things and get it built, when that thing deploys as a Type 3 SPU, we make $1,300 a day for it to just sit parked. And then if they use it, it's about $3,000 a day, and anything that gets lost, stolen, and or destroyed gets paid for by the province and restocked. So it's literally just a cash machine. So
No brainer.
So once they've got they know about the donation, he's going to get me a cost list of what's left. And I think it's worthwhile. They've done a lot of legwork. They put a lot of time and effort into it. I know council approved the pumps, but they've got hose, a wide variety of other stuff that the Fire Rescue Association's put in there. And I'd rather see it making money than sitting there waiting on us to see if we can have it make money. I did talk with Catalyst. That was frustrating and continues to be frustrating. And, Mayor Lewington and I met with the developer and MSK Developments, and we had a discussion about some lot availability within the village, and they have some possible designs and plans which might be good for seniors transitional housing and such. So we'll see where that goes.
for these lots here.
No, these lots, every lot we've got, basically, they looked at all the land potential within the village, so.
Excellent. Any questions? You got a motion? Motion made by Councillor Bickman to accept. All in favor? Matt, start with you.
Peace officer on Monday. So they're gonna be down to 50% of their normal staff. They have 2 people off with medical issues, basically the same 8 to 10 weeks. They overlap by about 2 weeks. So all through the summer, they're gonna be at capacity. So the expectation is you're not gonna see them as much. And when they show up, they'll be much later than what they normally are. But they'll do their best to work through it. The second thing Curtis brought up is, and Scott just sent an email about it earlier today, the police funding model survey.
Yep.
So Curtis and the peace officer group were, they are looking to make sure that all of the communities respond to that. They'd like to see us get credit for spending money on peace officers because they provide a service that the RCMP simply will not do. So if they were gone, we wouldn't have anybody in law enforcement. We probably wouldn't have a lot of the things that we do. And so we feel that we should receive some credit for that. Now's the chance that we can give them feedback. And they're hoping to meet with the minister of something during the Alberta municipalities annual meeting. So they're looking to set that up. If you can fill it out, I know it's a 20-minute survey or
Yeah.
something like that.
Just take right.
Now I have, if you getting emails for water commission, am I still on that, or is that you, or?
That's me and you. It's on
It's-
Thursday.
I can't keep track of which one I gave away to you. Or, yeah,
Or
Force, and then. Do you remember anyone?
I have Nick.
Just Forest and Water Commission always fall on the same day. And again, there's 2 meetings this Thursday. I can't attend both. I haven't found the duplicated machine yet. I don't know if we resolve that issue or if we just said we'll continue or different. Okay. So. Although,
So if you want dinner, come to Water Commission.
yeah, both of them are kind of, this one's the barbecue one for horse.
Oh,
I like not driving to Lethbridge.
Little draft once a month for Chief Mountain. They are wrapping up the results of the consultant's report on how to modernize and upgrade what they're currently doing. And I think he's going to come up with some suggestions that will perhaps add to the cost of providing services, because there seems to be an appetite amongst the woke folk for the 3-bin approach and things like that. As board members of that commission, we're trying to do what's best for the commission, but the challenge is reminding some of the people on that commission that that commission only exists to serve the communities. And so here you've got 11 or 13 people from communities, so you need to do a better job of listening to what the needs of the community are. Because there are a couple of communities that are considering, I think, withdrawing and looking after their own waste management. So they're aware of that. And that report's coming. Stantec, I think, is a group that's doing it. They made a personal report last week, and it was part of the last month. So anyway, that's happening. The events committee that the mayor and I are on, doing an outstanding job. Great hands-on leadership by Amy and Karma and Sandra and some of the others. They're all in and moving that forward very well. We have a meeting coming up, I think, in a week or so. We keep things moving with the Saturdays. And then I attended Community Futures. And again, they're looking at the challenge of they haven't had an increase in their budget in terms of the amount of money they have for their costs as well as for investing for about 20 years.
oh,
And it's just ridiculous. And we had quite a discussion about how ridiculous that is, and prairie scan and all that stuff. Anyway, it should be prairie scan, I suppose. That's it. Anyway, work with that.
Haven't had anything, got some coming up in Ridge training coming up, and then Southborough coming up as well, so. I'll report next time, or one after.
okay. Trevor?
My notes are in the system. The only one that I would add that's not in there is I did have a meeting with the Chinook Primary Care Network. So they are the ones that do physician recruiting for the region to make sure Sterling's on their map, and I had some conversations about incentives they're recommending for Lethbridge to consider. So once I get that list, we can shamelessly steal it and use it for our own conversations as well, I think.
Sounds good.
Sorry, I forgot one other meeting I went to. Library board.
Yeah.
we've officially passed all of the required policies to meet the government's requirements. So that's one less thing we have to do, but just what is not fun? It's done.
Good. And I just attended FCSS and it's the last meeting for the summer and they hurried through that as quick as they could. And everything seems to be going well there. The only thing I will bring up, having to do with Matt, is unsightly premises. And when I look at the house across from us, the complaint was last year. And nothing's been done.
Ross and I had a drive around together, and he is aware of our position on King's Bench orders and the requirements we want to see in King's Bench orders, and has assured me that they will be going that route as opposed to the attempt for compliance.
Good, because I know the one down the street from does not intend to do anything. He says, I'll just keep paying the tickets.
Yeah, there's not going to be tickets. So Ross wasn't aware that you could put a police enforceability clause and a must forthwith maintain in perpetuity in a King's Bench order, so they never have to do a notice or order ever again. They just go in and clean it up. So they're going to do some King's Bench orders and then do the cleanups, and then the people get the tax bill. And then if they decide to not cooperate in the future, they just go in and clean them up. There's no notice, no order, no anything.
Good job. Thank you.
They'll get to it, but much slower during this next.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's when I heard 50% less, I thought, oh.
So that's 2.5 years from now.
I know the people next door would like to sell their house. Don't seem to do it.
Yeah.
Anyways, anything else? We've got all correspondence. Anything coming out of that? Nothing, Scott?
Nope.
We need a
Acceptance?
motion to accept? Matt, you're
Yeah.
making that?
Yeah.
All in favor? Carried. Council highlights?
Closed session?
We should technically go into closed and then come out of closed. Because we didn't.
Motion to
close.
Okay.
I mean, a motion for closed.
All in favor? Carried. Okay. Oh, now I forget what we did in closed.
Stormwater.
So what kind of a motion would you need there?
It's up to you guys if you want us to explore these as options, because there's that grant funding that's available, and engage with our engineers to see if what we can come up with and continue those conversations with Clarence or any of the other landowners, and I can undertake that. If that's the desire you guys have right now.
And with that, the both,
Councilor Bickman makes that motion.
it's good to be proactive. That's one of the things you're really good at, Scott.
Any discussion?
So
Direct administration, they're explored stormwater
we can get your landowner
or something.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. 3 items. RCMP report.
Keep the grad music down. No, just kidding. Did we congratulate the grads last time or no? Grads of 2025.
Thank you to all the volunteers for all the sports.
For what?
All the sports, soccer,
Soccer, baseball, and
Baseball. yeah, soccer, basketball. Okay,
Lots of support from the community for all of this.
so we need a motion for that.
If we need one, I'll do it.
All in favor? Carried.
Justin, your motion, your favorite motion?
Motion to exit. No. Motion,
I motion to hang up on Trevor.
So noted, so ordered. See you, bye.